here today for the special edition of the Dopecast, and it's a short but precise conversation. It's called the Microdope, and my guest is Dr. Rick Doblin.
Yes, Norman's really delighted to be on this cruise with you and have this time to talk.
Well, I didn't expect anything because I could not imagine Antarctica. I just had no idea. People just said this is the best cruise you can take. But when I stepped on land, actually, or when I saw it, I was mesmerized. I don't know, how did you feel about this experience at the end of the world?
Yeah, the clearness and the unspoiled nature, and just it was awesome. Because what I realized is it's not just what we were seeing. It goes thousands of miles beyond that. It's this enormous amount of ice. We're seeing this tipping, but it also, with the whales and with the penguins and with the fish and with the birds, that there still is life even in these places.
It made me very happy to know that it exists. And now we're leaving it. It almost seems like a dream that's fading, but I know it's still there.
Yeah. Would you say that's kind of like a psychedelic trip as well, unless you talk about it and reflect on it and integrate it?
I think it is like a trip because you also have to go through the Drake Passage. This is when the drug is coming on, and still you have to kind of adjust to it, and then suddenly you're in Antarctica.
Yeah.
For me, it was actually so intense at one point. I was walking next to Rick, and suddenly I was losing consciousness because there was so much information. How did you perceive that moment when we set foot on, it was called Portal Point even?
Yeah. I guess I felt in a way the opposite, that it was a stillness. Not that
you could process it.
Yeah, just this idea that there's this, this space surrounded by mountains and snow, and yet the whole, it felt really quiet, like we were away from the internet and the phones, or away from TV and appointments, and so the amount of information that you're talking about is. Could you say more about that? I mean, there's information about. We saw.
I thought that there were very strong energy in the ground somehow, and so it was for me too much. So I lost consciousness. What did you think? You thought
should we tell the part before that?
What was the part before that?
Was smoky.
Maybe the weed was too strong.
I think that it was the combination of all of that. And
Rick
you
Doblin
took
is
two
like
hits.
a drug. It's like a drug. Lucy Walker was like a drug. You exchanged very high-end information about ibogaine at the moment. Then I smoked a joint with you, and Paul Stamets of all people.
Yeah, I feel that it was kind of, you never really seemed in physical danger, but just that there was this internal processing going on. So, because you weren't saying sounds of pain or anything like that.
No, I felt quite good. I was just concerned with my environment because the environment was concerned with me, which was also sweet, but I didn't want it to turn into a drama or something, because I thought, no, the ship has to turn back or something.
Right. It could have tipped that way, but
if the guy dies or something. No, I was actually just moving. I felt afterwards as if my frequency was higher. I mean, no, everyone's here talking about frequencies on this ship, and it felt like an elevation. But I'm happy that
to me it felt like an integration, almost like when we go to sleep at night. So much has happened, and then we sleep. We try to reconsolidate and solidify memories and thinking. So it felt like there was such a place on Earth that it just seemed like you needed time to do the inner work, and that you'd taken in enough. That's what you're saying. This overload. Yeah. So to have that in a safe, supported way is beneficial, that's what you're saying.
I mean, this is what your work is all about, to create a safe way for people to have these experiences.
Yes.
And I'm quite curious about your upbringing in a Jewish family. You are Jewish, and I would like to know, how is your Jewishness connected with your struggle to legalize psychedelics, and especially MDMA, in order to reduce trauma? What is there any is there any connection, or is that?
Yeah, very much. I think it's a central part of it. That that I was born in 1953, so shortly after World War II. And as I was growing up, from the earliest, we had relatives in Israel.
Right.
So the Israel story is connected to the Holocaust story, and so it just was this source of. I remember when I was younger thinking that it was so far in the past, like that everything had been changed. Like
Right.
when I'm 10 years old, let's say in 1963, learning more and more about the Holocaust and world, it just seemed like an eons ago, and would never be again. And great lessons had been learned, and now freedom was expanding. So it was this sense, though, that being Jewish, that there's the scapegoating process of humans, and that
Right.
they go. It's the same process, and it can shift from different targets
Yes.
really easily. So I felt this incredible security, and yet I knew things were in peril. I had a relative, and one of the Israeli relatives was in the 1948 war.
Okay.
I've had relatives in Palestine since 1904.
Okay.
And that so we would hear about the battles from, kind of like a military perspective of how Israel was created.
Right.
And all the stories of refugees trying to leave Europe, to leave Hitler, and not being able to go anywhere and end up getting killed. Boats. I read a lot. I used to read all sorts of. So I read Exodus by Leon Uris and others, but it was the connection to Israel and the connection to the temple. We did go to the temple every week. I had Hebrew school 3 times a week.
You speak Hebrew?
I do not. Really low.
You're supposed to. You should.
I spoke it enough, I guess, to
Right.
get my bar mitzvah. But
Cool.
that I felt from the beginnings this connection with Israel, the connection to the Holocaust story, and it was only early on happened in the World War II, and then waking up to U.S. and Russia talking about blowing each other up, or the Cuban Missile Crisis, and this danger of. Now it's that also was a deep imprint on top of the Holocaust, and this anti-Semitism was now just this other clash that could end up ending our lives.
And that for you led to work with MDMA. How is that? How is that connected?
Well, it led me to work with LSD.
Okay.
Because I didn't know about MDMA at that time.
Right.
So
LSD was your first psychedelic.
Yeah, and it was, it had been used since 1961 in the Netherlands, LSD, for treating what they called concentration camp syndrome.
Since 61?
Since 61.
Not before?
Not before, not that we know.
Wow.
So LSD, in this sense, as a treatment for PTSD.
Is concentration camp syndrome a special form of PTSD/trauma?
I think it's not a special form. Maybe it's just an extreme example.
Okay.
Or it's on a continuum where they want to kill you.
Right.
And they're only trying to get as much out of you before they kill you.
Right.
It's barbaric, and it's Trump, just to say, talked about how 6 Democrats who issued a statement advising the military not to follow illegal orders. Trump said that's treason. They should be punished by death. So the same. What I'm recognizing now, I guess, and why this is such an important discussion, important that you brought out your book, and important that there's a lot of these black and white, demonic, split kind of scapegoating and all, as we've never seen it before, to more of an extreme. And what are the role of psychedelics? How is it that...
So you think it's very urgent these days to work in this field?
Yeah.
Because it's coming back.
It's that I believe we have solutions to all the problems if we were to think scientifically, rationally, and equitably, that we could distribute all the resources we could. I think one of the reasons that the United States was so powerful compared to Europe is that the 50 states didn't have borders.
Right.
And you could communicate in a larger group, whereas there was all these
That's a very good point.
Yeah, and so I think we've got to be more worried than ever before, but the way is grateful to see all the different ways to pressure test democracy. And the irony for me is that we have a lot of support in the Trump administration
Right.
for psychedelics.
Right.
And in a way, I had hoped that the mainstreaming of psychedelics would be precisely to help people process their fears and emotions and not so easily turned into scapegoating others and motivated by hate.
I mean, the health minister of the new administration promised to legalize psychedelics, kind of, didn't he?
Yeah, at some point.
You think it's going to happen? Will the United States be the psychedelic states of America? I mean, if you listen to what he says, it should be happening the next couple of years, right?
Yeah, I think that the...
And could they mess it up?
Well,
even the legalization, or is the legalization good per se?
I think the criminalization is so negative,
right,
with all the corruption and all the impure drugs and all of that flipping to legalization would be
positive
better
in any case.
Yeah, but there would be a lot of ways to try to improve it.
Right.
You know, to educate people honestly, peer drugs, drug checking, peer support. You know, taxes, license if you misbehave.
It's a big package.
You get your license taken away. Yeah, but I think you could flip the switch and we'd be better off.
Certainly.
And then we elaborate. But it was supposed to, at least the hope was, and this is what connected me to the Holocaust and is that this broader sense of who we are, that we're part of not just our communities, but humanity, and we're part of life on Earth, and that we're part of something way enormously larger.
Right.
That would be an antidote to fundamentalism, to scapegoating, and I think in some ways it can, but it's not as automatic. Or
when you talked about the United States becoming so powerful because all the 50 states were forming one discourse, no borders. What if humanity would be able to, connect in such a way? I mean, wouldn't we be so powerful as a species? I mean, we could together we could achieve anything on this planet.
Well, but I think our power as a species would then be more about living in a multiplicity of forms of life. So it would probably, I guess, depends. There could be like natural reasons why some things go extinct, but where there is, I think
what would be our goal?
Here's another thing about insurance companies: national health, physical and mental health.
Yeah.
We have in the U.S. all these different insurance companies,
right,
and they're competing and they're all profit making. What if we had one national health insurance? Then you could, for those people that say it's not good enough, they could supplement if they wanted, and then all that friction from all these companies. So I think
I mean, the fragmentation is the big problem of humanity. We don't know each other anymore. We speak different languages. We have regional discourses, not a discourse as a species.
Well, we do have the
we're
UN.
divided and ruled. We are currently.
Yeah.
We're trying to unite, but it's not so easy. But I want to go back to that study in 1961. Did LSD actually help the people with concentration camp syndrome?
Okay,
Could you find that out?
Yes. So it was more of a series of case reports than a scientific study with control groups. It was just trying to refine the therapeutic book. And there's a book, Shaviti, S-H-I.
I know that book.
That's by the Israeli Holocaust writer that went undergoing LSD therapy with Dr. Bastian's. Yeah,
right.
It's something that...
and that inspired you to look at psychedelics? And
well,
LSD?
That was all a part of just how do you deal with this tragedy of pain, separation, violence, domination. How do you how do you deal with that, both to try to prevent and build a consciousness that wouldn't give power to sort of dictators, but that would also help people to really feel this deeper connection and change their politics.
I mean, I met you actually in Davos. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
I was just saying hi, and you were at the House of Psychedelics. But I really met you for the first time at the MAPS conference this year. Well, Psychedelic Science 2025. And what impressed me there was the Jewish Psychedelic Society. I thought they were fun. They were really great. Natalie Ginsburg. She invited me actually, so I came through her. So I'm very grateful to her actually. And then there was the Arab Psychedelic Society also invited. So they were talking about trauma inflicted on, for example, people in Gaza right now. The Jewish Psychedelic Society was also talking a lot about Israel and trauma there. And they didn't fight, they didn't argue. They were actually visiting each other's lectures and celebrating together and learning together. I mean, that is what really impressed me. Did you plan this for this conference?
Yes, definitely.
So that's dear to you.
This idea of the sense of interconnectedness that you can appreciate. I think the Jewish story, going back thousands of years, is enormously fraught with survival after survival, challenge after challenge, but it's also the building of a beautiful culture, and that I want to see that as not meaning that it's superior to other groups or cultures, that we can find a way to think more efficiently as a species, and
Middle East currently is very inefficient. I mean, if you look at that region, all that wealth, all that those different cultures, if they could find a way to benefit from each other, that would be like a center of the world. That would be like radiating so much
and I think that
peace and diversity.
Therapy, psychedelics in therapeutic beneficial contexts could move people more in that direction.
I mean, there is a lot of psychedelic research going on in Israel, for example, is there not?
Oh, a lot. Yeah. It's mostly, again, secondary in a sense to treat trauma.
Right.
Or depression, or and then the research in Israel is moving from, because of the scale of the depth of the need, it's starting to explore group therapy.
Group therapy.
Yeah.
That's what the Palestinians said. They said their trauma comes from being part of a group, which is being Palestinian. So they said their healing could also come from group healing. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Although the sequence of how we get there, so we're trying a project in Lebanon, and it's got multiple steps. So the first step is training therapists. It's about the therapists. It's not about the first step is 6.5 day in-person training program.
And you're on the ground there, or?
I sometimes am there for the whole thing or for part of it, but there would be about 70 people in one spot.
Okay. This is in Beirut.
They would probably choose. So we have a local partner. They would find the place to do it, and it could be Beirut. It could be out in the mountains, or Step 2 is where we try to create context for people to have their own MDMA experience in a therapeutic setting before they sit for other people. So that's the second part of the training, is your self-experience.
Probably still illegal also in Lebanon, right?
Unless there's a protocol.
Okay.
So that's protocols, and make it all legal. Not legal for sales, but that's why.
So it's more liberal in Lebanon than in the United States right now?
No, because in the United States we have loads of studies going on. So in terms of drug policy, there's an enormous number of psychedelic studies inside the Department of Defense, inside the VA, throughout the VA, inside academia, inside for-profit companies.
I mean, the wave is really so big.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that there's just this sense of, the core problem is not a lack of resources or a lack of energy. It's a lack of compassion. It's a lack of psychology
Right.
and thinking. And so that's where I think strategically working to help people expand and see things in some ways that they'd been difficult or suppressed, that is the core issue, and it replicates, to more and more people. So that, the sort of mental, this transition, in a way, humanity from self-actualization to self-transcendence.
Yeah.
Say in Maslow's terms.
Yeah.
And then Robert Mueller. I just found Robert Mueller was the Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations and wrote New
Right.
Genesis, Shaping a Global Spirituality. So that's what he meant in the word. So you still have the countries and the laws and all that, but you have what he meant by global spirituality is that you understand this.
That's the planetary society that we need to achieve, right?
Yes, I think so.
You think the UN will play a pivotal role in that?
I think that
It's kind of a lame duck, no?
the way it's structured, where the major powers all have vetoes, it only does.
That's a problem.
But sometimes things take 40 years.
Right.
It's like if it builds, if it's going in the right direction, I think the U.S. is trying to delegitimize the UN.
Yeah, because they're afraid. They're afraid they're going to lose power to.
Well, they are losing power, which is why they're afraid.
Right.
And then the things that they do are pushing more and more towards dictatorship and making more and more other people afraid. And I think in some ways are weakening. I think it's an overreach.
Right.
Hopefully, that's what you hope, is how bad can it get before at least enough people start thinking there's a different way to organize ourselves.
I was surprised that MAPS actually does work so much internationally, also is active in other countries. Does that come from this urge to create a planetary society, to unite us, to reach beyond the nation state?
Yeah, it does. Well, it also is about how in conflict areas where people on both sides of a conflict are all often traumatized and see things.
Like in Ukraine, for example.
Yeah. And then the Russian soldiers, who a lot of them don't.
But you don't reach them.
Well, Russia has shut down all research.
Okay.
But that is a question. If we could do therapy work in Russia, should we? I mean, in the 1990s, the late 1990s, the only psychedelic-assisted therapy research going on in the whole world was in St. Petersburg, in Russia, and it was ketamine.
Oh, right, I remember
Yevgeny Krupitsky.
Right.
Ketamine-assisted therapy.
So they were actually avant-garde.
And it was therapy. It was ketamine-assisted therapy for heroin
amazing.
addiction and alcoholism.
Oh, and it worked, right?
And it worked,
Yeah.
And then it got shut down in 2000. So since then, for political reasons, I think ketamine was beginning to be noticed as a recreational drug. They shut down the research, and they're super repressive.
Dictators don't seem to like psychedelics.
But here we are. We're predicting that in the next couple of years, there's going to be medical MDMA, medical psilocybin, medical DMT.
How is Trump going to sell that to his fundamental Christian supporters? Because they're against it, because God can only be seen through the lame red wine, right?
Well, there is balancing forces, So the other part is support of vets. Those people tend to be very patriotic as far as veterans.
Right.
A lot of them do go into the military in these places, so that
It's funny that the veterans are now a force for the legalization.
It went from
kind of ironic
against war to now the veterans.
That is ironic. That is I took Ibogaine with 4 special forces vets. It was amazing to meet these guys and to understand their trauma, and then to see how it actually healed through the Ibogaine. Like one guy had got a bullet in the head in Afghanistan 14 years ago with migraine every day and blurred vision, and the day after Ibogaine, his head was not hurting anymore. I mean, that's amazing.
Okay, so yes, but then the question is, 2 months later, where's he at now?
I don't know. I'm still in touch with him, but he's certainly he's
maybe
fine,
it's
still
permanent.
fine. Yeah, still fine. Yeah.
Wow. So there was that incredible. Yeah, that's the neuroplasticity or whatever.
I guess so.
We call it. It's, and that was psilocybin.
No, Ibogaine.
Ibogaine. Excuse me, Ibogaine.
Yeah. Well, Ibogaine is
Ibogaine
is
or
special.
Iboga?
Ibogaine.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you done that?
No, I've only done the Iboga,
well,
not the
I mean,
Ibogaine.
that's pretty legit.
Well, but they're different.
So, can you tell me a little bit about what's going on in the Ukraine, about your work there?
Yeah. There are currently laws left over from Russia, when Russia was in control, that prohibit research with Schedule I drugs. So there's an enormous burden of trauma, and their own laws block them from starting up MDMA research. There is ketamine clinic, though, because it's approved internationally in Ukraine. There was an Ibogaine clinic, but that person had left the country, and so there was no Ibogaine. And what we've done is train about 80 Ukrainian therapists, men and women, military and civilian, in a 6-day residential program of MDMA-assisted therapy for PTSD.
That's great.
So we've trained them at different times. We've also worked with one of them who came, one of the people that came to the training started the only Ukrainian contract research organization that does monitoring of clinical research. And so we've elaborated protocols and budgets for the sequence that I'm describing.
Yeah.
So in Ukraine, so the first one is the training, and they've been through that training. The second one is self-experience, and we're not sure right now. We can't get permission for that in Ukraine, and we don't quite have a good context yet. But we're trying to develop one in Vancouver. The third is the clinical trial,
right?
And that's where they are supervised administering MDMA and given feedback. So that part has can only happen post-approval. Then we start looking at group therapy. So I think that group therapy is more complicated in some ways than individual therapy. And you have less information about each person.
Right.
So that we want people to go through their own experiences and then individual therapy before they start thinking about group therapy protocols.
Okay.
Then we want to pick among these therapists who wants to be a trainer to train other people in their country.
Okay.
So that you end up trying to have it self-replicating, the training part. And then you do cost-effectiveness studies to try to get their national health insurance to pay for it. So in Ukraine, we're just at trying to affect kind of the balance of consensus opinion about changing this law. But it's really out of our, I don't have a direct sense of what's going on, but there's a lot of people that see the value that's being blocked.
They understand it?
They do, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
When Putin attacked the Ukraine, he said that the Ukrainians are all meth-taking Nazis. Maybe he read my book, I don't know, because it's been translated into Russian. In any case, I heard that they're taking Ibogaine, actually, the fighting troops. What can you tell me about that?
In Ukraine?
Yeah.
Meth. I can tell you about that. So I've been wanting to help them. I think they're fighting a really important fight, enormous amount of trauma.
Right.
And so in one of our trainings with Ukrainian therapists that took place outside Ukraine, and this was people that were able to get permits to leave and come back even.
Yeah.
So that's where I learned that Ibogaine was illegal at that time in Ukraine. So the question was, how do we get them some Ibogaine? In what context, and what would they use it for?
Yeah.
So there was this military psychiatrist that had himself used Ibogaine to get over addiction.
Okay.
So that might be a really good project. And so then we arranged through Dana Beal, this is all public, to arrange to get some Ibogaine. And
from Gabon, or?
I'm not sure the exact route of it, because you can get it from some countries around it. And what they decided instead to use it for was for the soldiers.
Right.
And it was used in a microdosing way.
Yeah.
And I think it was like 2 milligrams, 5 milligrams, 10 milligram varieties.
Do you know how many soldiers took it?
I don't know. Yes, no. So and I know that because there was an article written about it, that Ibogaine has since been criminalized.
So the article was backfired. Because no one would have talked about it, maybe.
Well, the article, brought something up from the sort of underground quiet where it wasn't causing harm. What this one military psychiatrist said is that, or psychologist, he said that his job is to keep these people alive, and whatever helps them for as long as he can.
Did they see good results with Ibogaine? Did it help soldiers to be
they
more alert or more fit? Or?
Yes, I never have like, here's a paper,
right.
But
and
now they're trying for more Ibogaine, and
they make good experiences with
it.
it.
May have. I don't know how they're getting it in or the scale of it right now, but I know that they felt that there was, real clear benefits for them in terms of alertness. Even the Bwiti hunters talked about it,
right.
So it's not a new idea, but it was. So what's the moral of that? Is it okay to provide soldiers with chemical enhancement so that they can fight a war?
What do you think?
It depends on the war.
Depends on the war. Right.
I mean, we provide them with tanks, with guns.
Right.
What's the difference?
Yeah.
If we're saying they should be in this war, that we should be in this war, you send all sorts of.
Why did they make it illegal in the Ukraine? Do they just follow the U.S. example?
I'm not exact. I think
because
it was the publicity. I think there is a. Why haven't they made it legal to do research? In almost 2 years of talking, why haven't they made it legal to do research? Because it's a conservative society in some ways, and there's
right.
a resistance. I don't
Big
know
stigma.
exactly why, but it seems like it's a 5-minute decision. Doesn't even take that long. Let's do research and see if it helps people. So there's resistance. The last I heard, it was the police were resisting it.
Police?
Yeah, the Ukrainian law enforcement people.
Well, Rick, we have another day to go, and we're back on land again. What are you looking forward to wrap this up? What's going on with you in the next couple of days, weeks?
I'd like to get in the jacuzzi.
At home?
No, here.
Here? Okay,
yeah,
on the boat.
On the boat.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, just more conversations. I mean, now it's just been this like amazing to know who's here, and start these connections. Yeah. So in some ways it feels too short in a way.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
So what I'm looking forward to is I brought a book, but I'm more interested in talking to people.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it was great talking to you.
Great, Norman. Yeah.
I'm just looking forward to everything. I mean, I'm just looking forward to life. You know, every day is beautiful. So at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm glad we had that bonding experience.
Yeah, unforgettable.
Unforgettable.
Rick.
And now you're doing great.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks for this conversation.
Yeah, terrific.
Goodbye, folks.